No, no, no. Hush. Hush.
Okay, well, it's 9:02, so I think I will start our training session. I am Elise Tripp. I'm a wetland consultant with Fishbeck, and I'm very excited to welcome all of you to our class on common wetland plants and to welcome Bob Hollister as our instructor. He is a professor at Grand Valley State University and has been teaching wetland plants and other interesting things for quite a number of years. Before we start, I just want to let you all know that the session is being recorded. Not everyone is able to join us today, and there is a second session 1 week from today, same time, same YouTube link. And so please come back next week for the follow-up session. Also, I just also wanted to note that we are planning one more virtual class. Michigan Wetland Association is planning one more virtual class this summer on August 9th on ferns, taught by Gary Greer, another professor at Grand Valley. And we will be resuming in-person instruction in the fall with a woody plant identification class scheduled in November. So that is all the announcements I had, and I'm going to turn this over to Bob now. So thank you again for agreeing to present this class to us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thanks. We started talking about this over the winter and teaching aquatic and wetland plants course at Grand Valley. So I developed a bunch of online materials because I had to teach my class, virtually. So I thought what I'd do is kind of convert a bunch of that into this. And in the process, I tried to figure out how to do that because, everything is on university course stuff. So what I did is I made a web page. So let me go over it real quick. And I thought people can ask questions and so forth. But I thought I'd just real quickly kind of go over this. And then this is publicly available and you can look at it anytime. So, and I plan to expand it quite a bit, but this course was my deadline, if you will, to set this up. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time. So I'll just put a first plug. Gary Greer's doing the fern class. So here's Gary. So there's the homepage, which just says plants. And then I made a places. So for my course, my aquatic and wetland and aquatic plants, we go to different locations. So what I did is I just turned each one of those field trips into a web page. And I only did a handful of them. I just haven't put them all on yet. So you can see those by places and then also by types. So I again plan to expand this quite a bit, but this is what I've got so far, but there's actually quite a lot here. So if I just click this first one, common submerged and floating plants. So this is kind of my plant list with pictures, and they're organized by growth form. So, and in this case, they're just because they're all the same growth form, floating or submerged. I've got them by fern, dicot, and then monocot. And so there's just pictures here, but then there's a nice description that I've kind of cobbled together from various sources. And the bulb with the little shell in front of it, in my mind, those are, if you have those two characteristics, then it's that species, or very, very likely that species. Or in many cases, I just do the genus. Again, this is for my course. So in most cases, I think knowing the genus is good enough because you can look up the species. In most cases, there's only a handful of species, and in my mind, it makes more sense to teach more genera because I can only teach so many so many plants in a course. So in most cases, they're a genera, but sometimes they're species. And the in parentheses, is the only species of that genera in Michigan. So if you know Brasnia, then it's going to be Brasnia. It's going to be this species. So here's all those plants, and they're organized by family, which is kind of nice if you're a botanist. So you can scroll through these and read through the descriptions. In a sense, this is like a fun picture book, but it's a web page instead of a fun picture book. At the bottom, there's videos. So you click this, and then these are the videos that I put together for the course. Because again, we didn't do actual labs or in-person labs. They're actual labs. They were just, I had my wife record me, and we went through and went to a lot of locations. And you can see what genera or species are in each of the videos at the bottom. You know, the quality is from my phone. So it's pretty good, but you know, it jumps around a little bit. So don't make them too big, because I don't know, when I went through and put all the names on, I gave myself a headache. So you can only do them in bits. But so those are all the submergents. And then if we just do some others, most of them are a location. Submergence was kind of a weird one because it was a hodgepodge. The typical was go to a place. So I've got, you know, who it's managed by, so you can click there, and you know, so this is Ottawa Parks, and then there's a trail map. So this is just their trail map. And then again, all the plants that are on the plant list that I teach. And again, all the little shells are what I consider the diagnostic characteristics that make it that species or that genus. And in this case now, the growth form matters, right? So because we're looking at all plants. So you can click on it here, and it'll just kind of fast forward you to the bottom of the web page, or you can just scroll down. It's the same web page. It's the same everything. It's just kind of a quick scroll to. And the idea here was, or still is, that you can go to that place, and you've got this web page, or you've printed. I put together plant lists and so forth, and you can just watch the videos. So go to the bottom, and this just does videos for that location. But once you've watched them, you can go to the location, and it's kind of nice. You got a small species list, and you look around, you can find all those. I was also thinking that this would be really helpful is just for trails around here. And I talk to friends and family that, I teach a plant course. They go, oh, I'd love to know the wildflowers at, Almond Park or wherever it is. So that's what this is. I mean, so it's publicly available to anyone. Historically, I've always had some people say, I really need to know my aquatic plants for my job or for, their research or whatnot. And they couldn't take the course, or I've had people take just the lab of the course, etc. So I've always had people ask me, and I thought, this would be a nice resource for anyone. And this fits really nicely for you guys. So if I just kind of go back, Hoffman Park, if I just go down to the videos, this one, I also teach a spring course. The spring course is everything. The fall course is aquatic plants. So I've put the videos as spring, and this one was more recent, and I realized that first off, this was the first course I taught, and so the videos weren't as good, if you will. We got better at it. But so I actually put the time, and these are all mostly common names for the spring course because that's how I teach it. But what's nice is I actually put the times here so you can fast forward in the videos. Whereas the fall course, I just haven't done that yet. So again, here's all the different spring and then the fall. So I figured that you guys could go through this on your own. And it's a pretty good list, or pretty good, between these 6 labs, if you will. Locations, this one isn't location, it's kind of a hodgepodge, but the other ones are locations with kind of a good bog, a decent forested wetland. It's not a very good wet meadow, but there aren't great ones around here, at least close to campus. And again, it's not a great marsh, but it's close to campus. So a good representation of some of the common habitats. And you can go through those and you can spend hours looking at the videos, or you can just kind of fast forward to the couple plants that you wanted to know what, are some of the diagnostic characteristics, or kind of go over them. Again, though, I think you'll probably find these really helpful. This was me going through, I've got a huge stack of pretty much all the books like sold for plant identification. And I like to browse through them, and some of the books have great characteristics that aren't necessarily in the key. And so I've tried to add a bunch of those. This is always evolving over time. At one time I thought of maybe doing a fun picture book. I think this is what I'll do instead. So this is kind of my fun hobby, if you will be to expand this and add trails around wherever I go. And so the places is the same stuff. It's just got a nice map to every one of these places. So you just click on it. It's just Google Map. And the other thing I point out is some of the resources. The ones in particular is the recommended books. I always get an email from someone saying, "Hey, what books do you recommend? You know, I'm doing wetland plants, right? You know, I need it for my job or for whatever reason." Usually it's either they're doing research at Grand Valley or they just got a job and they want to know more. So I've organized this by kind of type. So the obvious one is the field manual for Michigan. So this is kind of the best one. And then these are also recommended, but not as highly, if you will. I've got woody plants. This one's awesome, but it's usually can't find it. This is, you know, for shrubs, way better than the others, etc. So I've got, but for aquatic plants, the Crow and Hellquest, it's a 2-volume series. There are 2 volumes needed. It does half the plants in one and half in the other. Much better than any other key that I've ever used. In particular, you can use it for vegetative parts. It, you know, one of the problems with your wetland plants, particularly your aquatic plants, is they very rarely flower. They reproduce mostly asexually. So if you're doing a normal plant key, which is focused primarily on flowers, you're just stuck. It just doesn't work. So this one works some of the time, most of the time. It does all of northeastern US, whereas the Chad, and Chad's done a bunch of different books. There was wetland plants of the upper Midwest, and he also did one that was wetland plants of just Michigan, and he also did Wisconsin, and you know, the same states, he just broke it up. Any of those are about the same. It's a really good companion. I think this is Crow and Hellquest is way better. Submergence. You know, a lot of people ask me about submergence. This is a phenomenal, unique book for submergence. Unfortunately, it goes in and out of print. There's a second edition. This is the first edition. If you can get it, it's great. This one's a really cheap one, but very good. But it only does a handful of plants. And then there's ferns. And then some other usefuls. So you can read through that, holler if you got questions with any of them. Those are the things that are kind of the main stuff. I did just put a real quick basics. I expect that you guys probably know all this stuff, but your kind of monocot versus dicot, and then some of the real common terms. Again, I was thinking of this as kind of a weird web page that's kind of aimed at former students, people that want to know more about plants, people that are just went on a trail and looked at some plants that they liked and, want to learn more. So I'm trying to make this a one-stop shopping for kind of native plants and learning plants. And I've got some stuff about native plants and so forth. So maybe open it up for some questions if people have them, and then maybe we could walk around and look at some plants. But first, let me stop share and questions from anybody. So clear that no questions. Well, we've got this webpage. You can go through it at your own time, and hopefully you'll find it super useful. Let me just point out one other thing that I think is fun and useful for you guys. When you do the Michigan Flora online, presumably you've done this before. You do a search. Carrots. Just because we'll get it, because oops. I hate this, that the common names need to be exactly what they want. So if you just put sedge, you get this huge list. You can kind of just key out the, because I told you a lot of the plant lists are only to the genus. So if you've got the genus, you can do the key here from that. And this is great because it's got pictures and you can just kind of flip through it, or you can do the key. A lot of people just go through and look at the pictures. You gotta be a little careful with that, but it usually kind of narrows it down. And then you can do the key kind of backwards. But the other thing that's really nice about this is with these different, well, you guys are doing wetlands, so you can just highlight all the wetland plants. And you can say, well, so you're going to do the fern class later. So let's do all the native wetland ferns. And this will, click it. This will give you a species list. There aren't that many. So this is kind of a fun way to get a species list. Likewise, so if we unclick the fern, that's to say, I'm working in Kent County, right? My alphabet. Let's see, I'm still leaving all my wetland plants, and then I hit the search. This is going to give me a list of all the plants, wetland plants in Kent County. Now that's not very helpful because it's 500, but you could also go back and say, well, I'm not gonna, this does everything. Maybe what I should do is focus on just knowing the invasives. So the asterisk here is the invasives. So what are all the invasive wetland plants in Kent County? There's 28, okay? And here's a nice species list. You could change this to other stuff too. You could separate this out. But anyhow, that's a function that a lot of people, I think, would find super helpful. I'll do stop share and okay. So maybe what we'll do is go walk around and look at some plants. So I'm going to turn this off, and it'll take me just a second to get outdoors, and I'll be on my other phone.
All right, so this will be like a prelude of a video. Uh, I'm just gonna do my some plants in the yard. See, I'm not as sophisticated with the phone. Let's see, here we go. All right, so here you guys should be able to tell me this one, and it's really easy because it's got the Spider-Man symbol, right? So it looks like the venation looks like a spider. So to be safe, you'd need the flowers and stuff to do it to species, but it's Sagittaria latifolia. Oh, because it's right here, this is one of my favorites. Oh, it's harder to focus when we're doing Zoom. This is forget-me-nots. And they're easy because of the united petals and then the yellow center. And they're cute. So they also, the family tends to have kind of fuzzy leaves. These ones aren't super fuzzy, but they've got a little bit. Okay, some other fun, easy stuff. Iris is really easy because, you know, some people confuse iris with typha, which isn't, you know, you're not going to confuse it right here, but when they're small, you can. Obviously, iris has these pods this time of year, but iris is really cool. I don't know if you can see it well here. They look like a fan, right? So they all come out like a fan. So it's flat. They all come out like a fan. And that makes them really easy. There aren't that many species of iris, so if you've got flowers, it's pretty obvious basically by the flower color, but without flowers, it's hard to say. This is actually the introduced one, unfortunately. Oh, some fun, pretty ones. Cardinal flower. Cardinal flower is a lobelia, and lobelias have pretty distinct flowers, you know, that are bilaterally symmetrical and kind of the two-lipped, pretty distinct looking. I've got your lobelia like in your garden right next to it, and they have kind of the same two-lipped configuration. So cardinal flower. Fun one about cardinal flower is it is a perennial, but it usually doesn't make it. So if you like plant it in your yard, you got to plant a bunch of them and let it set seed. Otherwise, the chances of it making it the next year are pretty low. Cow parsnip. Cow parsnip is you know, Apiaceae, and this is a great example of the Apiaceae, you know, that you've got the umbel of umbels. Neat thing about Apiaceae, many of them are highly poisonous. Characteristics, they've almost all got a hollow stem. They've all got the double umbel. But many of them are photosensitive, so they don't actually give you a rash. You get some of the juice on your hand or whatnot. And if we're middle of the night, it wouldn't make any difference. But if you're out during the day, then you get a wicked sunburn and blisters and all that kind of stuff. And that's common for the family in general. Not every species does it, but many of them do. So it's kind of a fun, unique, special concern, if you will. Oh, keep walking around here. And this is all like super common stuff. There's the Joe Pye weed. Joe Pye weed's easy because of the whorled leaves. There aren't many plants with whorled leaves, and this one's got the whorled leaves, and then it'll have these real pretty purple flowers. And it can kind of take over. It's quite aggressive, but it's real pretty, so that's good. If we look, we just looked at Sagittaria a minute ago. This is Peltandra. It's a little wet. Peltandra, I don't know if you can see it with this. I don't know how well I can focus. If you look, there's a vein that goes all the way around. Looks like a kid traced it. That makes it really easy, Peltandra, because it's the arrow shapes that the kid traced. Another long skinny that people should be fairly familiar with. This is, oh, I'm gonna screw up the name. Acornus. It's the it smells really sweet. I want to call it sweet. And an easy way to know it is, well, you break the leaf and it smells sweet. But it's also got this weird rib down it. So the leaf isn't flat. It's got this little rib down it on both sides. Makes it pretty distinct because of that. If you go back and look at iris, they also have the rib, but they're much, iris is easy because they come out with a fan, right? They do have a rib, but it's not nearly as distinct. And these are so much fatter and narrow really quickly. They're really sword-like, whereas the sweet flag is, it's just much longer and skinnier, and it doesn't narrow nearly as fast, right? There's, some submergence here that are really easy ones. So submergence are harder to do with the phone just because they're hard to zoom in on. But this is an easy one. Kind of need two hands to do it. See that they're really feather-like. So if I pull off one leaf, they're very, they look like a feather. And so that's going to be a myrophyllum. And then if there's more than 12 leaflets on one side, it's going to be spicatum. If there's less than 12, then it's going to be one of your native ones. There are a few native ones that have more than 12, but the rule of thumb is if there's more than 12 on one side, it's going to be spicatum, which is the Eurasian milfoil, which you don't want. And if there's less, it's usually a native. I put a little key to the myrophyllums on that submergence page to kind of get them to species. Right here is Najas. Najas, how easy it is for you guys to see this. The Neat thing about Najas is they've got opposite leaves, which is not totally unique, but you know, fewer plants have opposite. But from every leaf, there's a branch. You see, like every leaf, there's a branch, except for the young parts, right? I mean, the young part of the stem doesn't, but the main stem, every leaf, there's a branch. Now, technically, every plant does that, but usually they don't really do that. Whereas Najas almost always has a branch at every leaf. And that makes it pretty easy to know it's Najas. They also have these kind of long skinny leaves. You'd need a hand lens, but they've got little spinules or little teeth on every leaf as well, which makes them pretty unique, pretty easy to know the genus. And then to get them to species, I need to look at them under a scope with the key. Here's a Potamogeton. Okay, Potamogeton's super easy. You see that stipule. So the stipule is associated with the leaf. And then this one's real easy because it's got these long skinny leaves. And then if I held this up to the sun, I'd see tons of veins here. It's Potamogeton zosterella, but it's also really flat. There are a gazillion Potamogetons. My wife, right, always joke whenever we're fishing or whatever, you know, whenever I catch a weed, I've got to identify it. And it's always a Potamogeton spa. There's another Potamogeton spa, but actually this one is not Potamogeton because botanists love to change the names all the time. So this is a Stackinii, and the way you know that, it's gonna be harder to do. Okay, if you can see that the stipule there, so right at the tip there, that is fused with the leaf. And it's fused more than 3/4 of the length of the stipule. So the key often says adnate to the base. I don't know what adnate to the base means, but this is what it means, that they're fused. So this is Stackinii pectinatus, or Potamogeton pectinatus is what I learned it as, but now it's Stackinii, and that's a real common one. Another super common one, which was just here a second ago, and here we go. Valsnaria. Valsnaria is super easy because it looks like broken glass. It's not super easy to see that on the phone, but it's super easy to see with my eyes. And it forms these rosettes, real distinct rosette where all the leaves come from the base, or basal leaves, but it's connected by this rhizome. So you can see, you can see each ramette or each individual. Kind of fun. It's a good fish tank plant. You can actually buy it at the pet store, or you could just go to any lake in Michigan pretty much and grab it because it's super, super common. We could keep walking around. Here's a fun one. This is jewelweed. This would be way easier. It's an impatiens, with flowers, but even without flowers, it's got an almost translucent stem. So it pretty distinct because of that. The leaves are kind of unique as well. The little dots are because I actually sprayed for mosquitoes and it didn't like that. Oh, there's a bunch of other stuff here, but it's not quite in flower. We've got swamp milkweed. Swamp milkweed, like any milkweed, has the oh, it's kind of hard to see here. It's got the milky, oh yeah, you can see it pretty well on this part of the leaf. See the milky, and then the flowers of Asclepias are just really unique, really pretty, really unique. This is actually a horticultural variety. The native one is it's around here, but it's not. They haven't quite started to flower yet. There are several milkweeds. I think they're all right here. So this is the Asclepias incarnata, the swamp milkweed. I forget the name of this one. The orange one is the upland one that you see along every roadside right now. And then I thought I had, yeah, here's the common milkweed, which is again roadside agricultural weed. A lot of people don't like this one, but the other ones are commonly sold, you know, because they're so pretty. There's a bunch of verbena that are starting to flower. They've got these really pretty little flowers. They're kind of on they're a spike. So these little purple spikes, opposite leaves. They're tall. There's not much else you'd confuse with a verbena. I showed you the Joe Pye weed. Here's the cousin, if you will, Eupatorium perfilatum, bonaset. And this one's just so easy because of those leaves. Those leaves are just so distinct. They're called perfilate, hence the species Eupatorium perfilatum. It wraps all the way around, and super common. You'll see it lots and lots and lots of places, and it's got white flowers, whereas the Eupatorium maculatum or Joe Pye weed, it's got purple flowers. But really easy to know both of them by their leaves. World versus the perfilate. If oh, this used to be a Eupatorium. I forget what genus they made it. But this is, you can't tell now because it doesn't have the flowers, but it's in the same related. Oh, here's the swamp milkweed with the purple flowers. This is the native variety. They haven't quite opened yet though. Again, the easy thing would be to rip the leaf and look for the milk. That's just good, easy diagnostic if you're unsure what it is. If you think it's that based on kind of the general appearance, then you break it and there you go. Those are all good wetland plants here. I've got a bunch of other good wetland plants the other side of the yard. Take me a second to get there. There aren't many wetland trees, so, but swamp white oak is one of them. It's pretty easy because it's very rounded and the lobes don't go very deep. You really need acorns to know your oaks. I've got oh, all the different wetland ferns back here. First off, wild cucumber is super easy and it's a good wetland plant. The leaves are super distinct, real pointy, 5-pointed. And this will have, and this is funny because this is an annual. So this is crazy how, I mean, it just takes over. It's actually considered a weed by a lot of people. And it'll have these really cute little cucumbers in the fall and tons and tons and tons of white flowers that smell really good. So you can oftentimes, I mean, it's kind of a funny one because many of your native plant sales will sell it, but then it's also in the book for being a weed because it, you know, it's so aggressive that it kind of takes over. So I like it and plant it strategically different places. All right, but our it's hard to tell. It's just starting. But what's really easy about nettles is their leaf margin. Okay, so for me, that's really distinct. That these kind of triangles, and then many of your nettles also have 3 main veins. That's kind of a distinct. So if I see those leaves, I'm going to be a little leery because I don't want to get stung. I've actually got stinging nettle over here. It's not actually a wetland plant, but it's really common along like creeks and stuff, and it's usually in the dry right next to the creek. But again, look at that leaf margin. And stinging nettles are easy because they've got the inflorescence droops, and then you'd really know it because it'll it'll sting you. In a lot of cases, it doesn't sting that hard. Okay, so if we scoot back over here and to kind of compare it, this one's obvious that I'm touching it, so it's not stinging, but it's got that same leaf margin. Right next to it, there's a bunch of the sensitive fern, which is a good wetland plant. And the easy thing about the sensitive fern, it's one of the only ferns where the frond kind of hugs, or the blade hugs the stem. Most ferns, it would be more like down here where there's just the stem and then each one of these pinnules or each one of these leaflets, which are pinnule. So it has a pretty distinct look because of that. And it's fun because it's dimorphic. So it has, these are the fertile fronds. So here's a fertile frond starting. This was last year's. And then when, so the fertile fronds look totally different than the sterile fronds. If there aren't that many wetland ferns, so I've got several of them. The royal fern is good wetland plant, and it's got doubly oddly pinnate leaves. So here's the pinnate leaf, and then the whole thing is pinnate. So it's doubly pinnate. Tip, I mean, if you get spores, you can tell what kind of fern it is. It's not a wetland one, but it is a good native, is the Christmas fern. And Christmas fern's real easy because it's got those thumbs. So this little extension here, you call these little thumbs. But back to good wetland fern is cinnamon fern. My cinnamon fern's getting kind of crowded out, but and it doesn't have the, fortunately, or the cinnamon fern will have a frond, a fertile frond, and it looks kind of like cinnamon. If cinnamon fern is actually, if you look at each where the pinnules come from, they've got little hairs there, which also will give it kind of a cinnamony kind of appearance, if you will. I don't know how well you can tell that, but there you go. That makes it the cinnamon fern. So, all right. So that's kind of a quick feel for what many of the videos are. I don't know. Anyone got questions? Got like a few minutes left, so I don't know. I mean, I could still go over a couple plants, or
Hey,
it's up to
hey,
you guys.
Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Elise. I was wondering if you might want to talk about the next session and, you know, how students can, like what they should do this week and what you might like them to bring to the next class as far as, you know, plant review or questions or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So what we were thinking was, again, the idea of this was, I put together a bunch of stuff for my courses that were available for everyone. And so you can kind of, at your own pace, look through any of those materials. And then the idea was you could bring plants to the next class, and we can as a group tell you what they are. So it's kind of the car guys, you know, stump the chumps, if you will. So you're stump the professor. Bring a plant, show us it, and hopefully we can figure it out. So that's what we kind of figured is next week would be looking at plants that people brought in. So you can probably just take really good pictures. You can bring a plant, they get pretty limp. But I was surprised when I did my plant course at how well it actually worked. Historically, I always had people just collect plants, and we did herbarium specimens, but with COVID and everything, we just did photos. And I actually think I'll do that from here forward, because what happened was a lot of my students would collect plants and then they try to key out this flattened thing that that just looked horrible. Whereas when they took pictures, they actually keyed it out then and had fresh material and so forth. So I was surprised, and I, you know, with cell phones now, I mean, you can zoom in really well and get a lot of the diagnostic characteristics. So you could bring plants, but you could also take good pictures, and we can do share screen.
Yeah, that sounds good. And maybe a variety of photos, kind of focusing on like the whole plant, zooming in on maybe some diagnostic characteristics. And the I don't know how cold you know, if you people will maybe say the context of where it was found, like what kind of plant community, or if we really want to be mean, we could just not give you any of that information and
no, I know my plants by location. So And you know, I do get frustrated when I use a key where that's all based on location, but you can really narrow it down in your mind anyhow by where you got it from. It's hard to know what the diagnostic characteristics are when you don't know what the plant is, but a good close-up of the flower, things that are real common, you know, are the leaves up on the stem the same as lower on the stem, good top of the leaf, good bottom of the leaf. You know, basically anything that looks weird is probably a diagnostic characteristic. So if you see anything that looks unusual on the plant, spines or a weird leaf here or there, those are the types of things that are usually really helpful to key it out. I always joke that, you know, the weird, basically the couplet, you know, when you use a plant key, it's weird, not weird. And if you've got a not weird plant, it takes forever to key it out. But if it's a weird plant, it keys out really fast.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is our big chance to finally identify all those species that have been bugging us because we weren't totally sure what they were. So this could be fun. So everyone, as you do your field work, keep your eyes out for anything you might want to get some professional input from. And it should be fun. In the meantime, explore all the videos. I took a look at the website a few days ago, and well, he gave you the overview, but there's a lot of information there. So this is going to be really fun to check these out, especially for those of us in West Michigan who are familiar with some of those locations where excuse me, where Bob went.
Yep. So hopefully it's fun, and it's a resource that's totally available to anyone. If you got a friend or whatnot that wants to know some of the wildflowers, I do plan to, I teach a spring course, you know, which is focused more on the wildflowers in spring. I'll do that sometime between now and next spring, you know, get them all up on there. But the idea is that it's just a free resource for anyone kind of interested in plants.
Great. So we have like 2 minutes left. If anybody has a final question, go ahead, and otherwise we'll sign off here. Any final comments from anybody? All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Bob, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 1 week. Everyone have a great week and stay safe out there in the field as you're tromping around. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.